The UMass Minutemen will be the last independent team we will be talking about here for the 2023 college football season. And make no mistake, friends, while this is a UMass team that is sat at the bottom of the ranks in college football and has sort of been the joke around FBS, make no mistake that this team could potentially see significant improvement in 2023. Don Brown's group has a lot of talented transfers coming in, so the question is, will UMass improve that abysmal win total from many seasons prior, or is this going to be a team that still sits very near or at the bottom of the FBS ranks? What's up, Tailgaters? My name is Tailgate Nate, and welcome to my channel. I'm predicting all 133 FBS level college football teams this season. Guys, that means I'm doing your favorite team, so hit the subscribe button and ring the bell so you know when that team gets uploaded. But there are more ways than that you can help me support my channel. You're doing one right now by watching the video, and you can do more by liking, commenting, sharing, and really anything else you guys can think of that you're able and willing to do to help support my channel. The support on the channel has been great this summer. I appreciate all you guys for it very much. Don Brown is your head coach for the UMass Minutemen, and this is the team sees a lot of transfers come in. Let's talk about Minutemen football in 2023. How do we do preview predictions around here? Well, I'm glad you asked. We take a look at the roster overview, and we look at who the team lost, who's coming back, and who's coming in through the transfer portal and recruiting class, as well as taking a look at the Minutemen football schedule, and we'll give it a game-by-game preview and prediction. So without further ado, let's talk UMass football in 2023, shall we? The quarterback room. Well, it was the weakness of this team last year. Well, there were many of those, but not really great quarterback play. One of the many weaknesses of this team last season. And, well, you lose a guy that potentially could have changed that in 2023, and that was Garrett DeZero. During his limited time playing at quarterback for the Minutemen last season, he threw 36 passes for 311 yards on 61% completion percentage, completed 22 out of 36, 1 touchdown, no picks, 8.6 yards per pass. Granted, it's a limited sample size, but I think he looked good last season, and you do lose him this season. You do return your starter from last year in Brady Olson, but his numbers are not great at all from last year. 791 yards, 2 touchdowns, 8 interceptions last year on only 50% completion percentage. Look, I think Brady Olson at his peak can be a pretty solid quarterback, but there is a lot to change about Brady Olson and a lot to improve upon if he's going to be that starter. So they brought in a couple transfers to help them. Tyson Fomacon is only a 2-star transfer, but a former 4-star, my apologies, a former 4-star coming out of high school. He's over by way of Clemson, most recently Georgia Tech, and then Carlos Davis comes into this program as well to be sort of, again, another guy back there. He's another 2-star transfer from Western Carolina. So while quarterback play could be another weakness of this team, but this year, I think they do see improvement with some of the transfers that they have brought in. Now, taking a look at the skill position groups in the running back room, well, you lose a really good player in Ellis Merriweather. I do not think his stat line last year is really indicative of how he can play, but had 150 carries, 575 yards, and 3 touchdowns last season. So you are going to lose him, but you do return Kayron Adams, Greg DeRogers, and Tim Baldwin, as well as getting a transfer coming over in Jalen John. Hey, that's a 3-star transfer coming over from Arizona. Reading the wrong transfer. Okay, not bad at all. You'll see that as a theme for the UMass Minutemen this season. In the wide receiver room, you do lose Cameron Sullivan-Brown, your second leading receiver at 373 yards, 2 touchdowns from last season. He is going to be gone. However, you do get some returners coming back. George Johnson was your leading receiver, 402 yards, 1 touchdown. He comes back. Jaquan Gibson comes back as well. And Isaac Ross, who had 195 yards and a touchdown last season, as well as getting some transfers coming over to this program. Mark Pope comes over to this program. He is a former 4-star out of high school, 3-star rated transfer over from Jackson State. And then Anthony Simpson is an all-around athlete that should play wide receiver, 3-star transfer over from Arizona. In the tight end room, Josiah Johnson and Jacob Orlando are gone, but Eni Falayi should be that feature tight end for the Minutemen this season. And on the offensive line, couldn't find a whole lot. Sorry to all my Minutemen fans out there, but Max Longman does leave this team. However, Johnny Hassard and Ethan Mottinger will be highlighting that offensive line for the Minutemen this season. On the defensive line, and on the defense as a whole, what can we expect out of UMass this year? Well, we'll start out with the defensive line as Marcus Cushney, really solid defensive lineman for this Minutemen team last year. 47 tackles, 5.5 sacks. That led the team last season. So you do lose him. Was your best defensive lineman, team's 4th leading tackler. That's a big loss on the defensive line. But Billy Wooden, Hugo Cloggis, Marcus Bradley, Cletus Mothrin. My apologies. Bradley had 2.5 sacks last season. There are some solid players returning on the D-line, and wouldn't you know it, some transfers come in. J.B. Brown, a 3-star transfer over from Arizona, and then Chambry Jackson comes over to this program as well. Chambry Jackson is a 3-star rated transfer, former 4-star out of high school from Florida State. Okay, UMass, I see you linebacking unit. What have we got there? Well, Jalen Mackey was the team's leading tackler last year by far, had 98 tackles, 3.5 sacks, and an interception to his name. That's a big loss. The linebacking unit, to lose your leading tackler on any team is a significant loss. However, Jarrell Johnson, Najee Logan, who had 2 sacks last year, and Jalen Stewart all come back to this linebacking unit. Jalen Stewart had a sack and a half with his 16 tackles. And then Jerry Roberts is a transfer coming in. Hey, again, another 3-star transfer for UMass. That's a transfer coming over from Arizona. In the defensive back room, well, Josh Wallace was a very solid defensive back for this team last year. 8 passes defended, which led the team. 2 interceptions, was a top 10 tackler. You're going to be losing him mightily this season, as well as Tanner Davis. 2 passes defended, 31 tackles. Pretty solid defensive back for during his time here with the Minutemen. However, some good talent does come back. Jordan Mahoney, 6 passes defended, 3 interceptions, including a 94-yard pick 6. He'll be the best defensive back for the Minutemen this season. Tyler Rudolph and Jalen Farrell, some other names return. And what do you know? More transfers come in for this UMass team. Steven Ortiz is a transfer that comes in from Minnesota. That's where I got Minnesota from earlier. Again, I apologize. Former 4-star to high school, 3-star transfer. And then Deshaun Jenkins coming over by way of Ole Miss. And again, there are many other transfers that I did not mention. You can go check them all out by way of 24/7. Don't get me wrong. This UMass team has definitely improved tenfold in talent. There are still some weaknesses, but this is the team that has much improved from a season past, at least, just looking at the bare roster. Your head coach is Don Brown, offensive coordinator Steve Kasula, defensive coordinator Keith Dudzinski. As we take a look at the Minutemen schedule, hey, any game at home is going to be, any game that's underlined is going to be at home, and any game on the road will be in italics or the slanted text. Any game you see in green is a game I believe UMass going to win easily. Spoiler alert, there will be none of those. Any game in yellow will be a game that, okay, UMass is going to fight, the other team is going to fight. Maybe it's a back and forth game or a very close game. Maybe a game UMass is favored in that they might lose, but it's a game I see UMass winning, and red is a loss. Spoiler alert, you will see a lot of red on this screen, but you may see more wins than you may think when you think of UMass football. Looking at the first week against New Mexico State, I think that is a loss. When you take a look at the Aggies this season, hey, that's a team that is joining Conference USA. They got better last season. I think they're going to continue that momentum this season. Could be a pretty solid team in the ranks of Conference USA, and that is the team right there with New Mexico State that I believe UMass will pick up a loss to in week 0. One of the few teams to play in week 0, and they will also lose to the Auburn Tigers. There's no shot to beat Hugh Freeze's team. That team is bringing in a lot of talented transfers to add to the talent that they already had there with the Auburn program. You're not beating Auburn this season. Sorry to all my Minutemen fans. Then you get a couple Mid-American Conference opponents up here. Miami of Ohio. Well, that's a team that did lose some great talent in the transfer portal. But when you take a look at this Miami of Ohio team, I think it's going to be a pretty solid, pretty competitive team in the Mid-American Conference this season. That's another team that I really, really like, and I believe is a team that is going to beat UMass this season, as well as their Mid-American counterparts in Eastern Michigan. They've got a lot of solid skill position players on that roster. Defensively, there are some good players as well. And I think throughout these first 4 games, while I don't think UMass is going to win any of them, maybe it's some time to gel. It's some time to get some of those transfers worked in to the system to get experience on the field before what I think are 2 very winnable games against New Mexico coming out of the Mountain West and Arkansas State coming out of the Sun Belt Conference. And I think UMass is going to win one of these games. When you take a look at those 2 games right there, New Mexico and Arkansas State both are 2 teams that do not project well within their own conferences, and among the ranks of college football, they project as not great either. In fact, I believe both teams are in the bottom 25, maybe bottom 30 in terms of projections coming into next season at bare minimum. Now, I think the team that UMass is more poised to beat is New Mexico. So I'm going to give them the win against the Lobos. The Lobos are losing some talent through the portal to some other programs. This is the UMass team that has mightily improved their roster. There are a ton of 3-star transfers, some former 4-stars even coming out of high school. Lots of Power 5 transfers, most notably, again, a lot coming over from Arizona. There's some great transfers coming in. So again, by association, I do believe they lose to Arkansas State because I believe they win one of those 2 games. Maybe they win both. I think they win one of 2 because both those teams overall, I think, have more experience and more talent than UMass. This is going to be pretty much a brand new roster for the Minutemen this season, and quarterback play could still be a weakness of this team. I think is what will let them down against Toledo. Toledo is losing some good pieces there as well. Some great talent in the skill position unit. I also believe there's going to be a changing of the guard at the quarterback position there, although I could be thinking of Kent State, who I know for sure has a transfer leaving that program. But anyway, when you look at Toledo, I think there are a lot of good pieces on defense. Quarterback play not going to be there, or at least not going to be up to standard for UMass this year. And I do believe that will be a loss for them. And there's no way you're beating Penn State. The Nittany Lions, a top 10 team in the entire nation coming into next season. Definitely a Big Ten contender, possibly a national championship contender as well. And then you get your bye week, but it won't matter because on the road to Army, I believe, is another loss. I believe that Army is going to play too physical of defense and that rushing attack. I think UMass is going to have a difficult time slowing down what could be a revolutionized Army offense. I believe UMass loses that game. Now, you do get a win here against Merrimack. That's a school coming out of the FCS ranks that I do see UMass being able to beat. Then you get your second bye week of the season. You get 2 because you played in week 0 on the road at Liberty. I do not think that is going to be a win for this program. Jamie Chadwell comes over from Conway, is coming over to the Liberty Flames. There's a lot of solid talent coming into that team. Again, there are some good pieces leaving, but a lot of solid talent a lot of solid talent transferring in. There's already some good pieces there. That's a team that joins Conference USA this year. I think it's going to be a pretty solid football team, and UMass is going to have their struggles on the road against Liberty. And then you have a game against UConn. Now, Fenway Park is probably going to end up being the neutral site for this game. It's not a home or away game for any one of those 2 teams, but Fenway Park is the destination being talked about. However, again, that's why you see the TBA there, as nothing has been officially announced at all. When you take a look at this UConn team, I think that is a very talented team this year, much more talented than this Minutemen roster that we just looked at a little bit ago. UConn's got a lot of great pieces in. Hey, Taquan Roberson was hurt last year. He probably should start at the quarterback position this year, and UMass loses. But I have the Minutemen at 2-10. Now, make no mistake about this UMass team. If these transfers can find their role, and most notably, if quarterback play from Fomacon or one of these other transfers coming in, Fomacon? Yes, Fomacon. Sorry, I don't know why I thought I was thinking of a different team. If quarterback play can get to an acceptable level, this is the team I could see winning multiple games. I think this team improved in every single area. Talent-wise, they got a lot of talented transfers coming in here. UMass and Don Brown, I think, are on the up and up, but I think it's going to take some time for this program to really start rising fast. I think it's going to be a slow rise for this UMass team. I think this season is going to be a great step in the right direction for the Minutemen program. I got UMass winning 2 games this season. Again, slow process, but a process that I think is going to be working for Don Brown and company. That is going to do it for my Minutemen and independent coverage. Make sure you hit the subscribe button, ring the bell, do whatever you have to do. Let me know your thoughts of the Minutemen in the comment section below. And as always, remember to play hard but tailgate harder. See you guys in the next video. Goodbye.